So let's say we have another variable here, which is going to be num3, but I want my num3 to be required. So I would move my num3 behind num2, or just say that my num3 would have a default value of 65. So always make sure that the parameter that has default value is at the end. So here we know that we have two required functions, and I can just add that here. So it's just like, this is just a convention, it is not important. JavaScript will still figure it out, but anybody that picks up this piece of code can easily tell that my num1 is 3, my num2 is 4, and my num3 is going to default to 65 if I don't add it. So when I run this, it is going to add all three values and give 72. Yeah, so that is how you can make use of default values for your functions in JavaScript. And this is just a very simple example of your function. So your function can be as complex as, let's say, the function parameter is of norms. Then we would have a for loop inside of my function that is going to be starting from 0, and it is going to loop through all of the numbers in norms. Then it would add that. So so um so we'll be starting from 0. Then we would go to, just tell me, okay, okay. So sir, Quadri, just tell the guy okay, okay. Just tell the guy okay. The guy is outside. Sorry about that. So this function is expecting norms. So like, let's say an array of numbers. Then we want to loop through the array of numbers, then print out each element. So we would print out each element by using the syntax we used before. So I'm just trying to show you that. So I'm just trying to show you that your function can be as complex um, as possible. So it can contain multiple lines of code. So it is not just every time um, that we add just two numbers. So we can loop through an array inside of our function. So that is what I'm just trying to show here. So now that we have this function, let's say um, array loop. So now that we have this function, so when we want to execute this function, we'll be passing in an array of numbers. So we can either pass it directly here. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or we can declare our array outside. So we can declare our array outside and say array norms is equal to this. So we can declare the array outside and pass in my array as an argument to my function array loop. So when I run this, um, I no longer need this result because I am already logging the element inside of my function. So I just need to execute this function, and when I run this, you can see that it returns the values of the array from 1 to 6. So this just shows that your function can contain any piece of code. So we can also have conditional statements inside of our functions. We can have loops inside of our functions. So we can have multiple we can have any piece of code inside of our function. Sorry, just give me a minute, please. Okay, so this is why I keep saying that like functions are the backbone of your code because they would help you perform any action you wish to perform. So from loops to conditional statements and even more complex things like accessing servers, databases, and so on, which you would still do later on in your journey. So does anyone have any question on functions before moving on? Okay, um, Mohammed, what's your question?
Okay, I want to ask if you want to access, let's say, a set of data or reports in, let's say, from your database now, will this be also used to fetch information from your database? Like,
Yes, you would use a function to fetch information from your database, but you would need some other parts of the function which we've not touched yet. So that would be when um you need a server which will be created using Node.js. So that is still
okay,
later on. But I'm just trying to tell you that even at that level, like you would still be using functions to access the database.
okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, Adeyemi, what's your question?
Yeah, thank you. So my question is, can you please explain closure in function and probably an example to show the how to apply it?
Sorry, can I explain
Closure in function.
closure?
Yep.
Like
I've always been coming across this closure in a function whereby it deals with maybe a global scope and local scope. And I want to, I'm asking if you could better explain this and how someone can apply it in function.
okay, okay. So global and local scope, yeah. So we would go over that in a minute. So just give me a minute. Let me attend to something. So that would be the last thing we'll be going over actually because our time is up. So so if I understand your question properly, so you want us to go over global and local scope in functions. So when they talk about like global variables, I guess we all know like even from the this thing we know what that means. So it means that there are variables that can be accessed everywhere in that file. So they can be accessed in every part of the file. But local variables can only be accessed in certain parts of the file. So like in your loops, for example. So the variable we declare in the loop. So let me just show you that. So this variable that we are declaring here, index, is only accessible inside of this loop. So but any variable that we declare outside of the loop, so let's say const name is equal to um IO. So any variable we declare outside of the loop is both accessible outside and also inside the loop. So we can even come here and still say console.log name. So just like this demonstration here, it is similar for functions as well. So for the function, let's say we declare a function here. So let me use the function keyword, and we say add, and we say num1, we say num2. And for my function here, let's say we want to return the sum between num1 and num2. Now let's say out here we have a function here that, sorry, we have a variable here that, let's just say it is num. So this variable, it could be a result of another function or not. So for simplicity's sake, let's just say num is equal to 6. So inside of my function, I can decide to access num, and when I execute my function, so when I say console.log add, then I can pass in my num1 and my num2. So let's say 2 comma 3, and when I execute this function, it is expected to return the appropriate value, which is 11. So it is adding 2 to 3, which will give us 5. Then it is adding that to 6 as well, so which would give us a total of 11